How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Dating with Demoldey. They still haven't canceled us. I don't know how this is possible, but we got funding from the powers that be, and we are still on the air. Episode 3 coming your way in just moments. Appreciate you watching the first couple. The Friends video really taken off. The 500 Days of Summer video, maybe not so much, but maybe the third time is the charm. Today we're talking about The Notebook, a fantastic movie from the early 2000s. Ryan Gosling, Rachel McAdams, a classic duo. I'm excited for this one. It's easily the top rom-com in my book. I guess 500 Days of Summer is a rom-com as well, but this one's a very sappy movie. Pretty sad at the end. You can't watch the movie without having a dry eye. So, big fan of the movie, but something I wanted to explore because I think there are some interesting dynamics, multiple different relationships at play that will break down in this one. A similar format to the last video with 500 Days of Summer with the different themes. So yeah, appreciate you guys watching. Hit the like and subscribe, but let's get into it. Episode 3 of Dating with Demoldey coming your way right now.
Dating with Demoldey, it's back again. Bring your family, bring your friends. It's all about The Notebook, Noah and Allie. Your favorite video series, Dating with Demoldey. Dating with Demoldey, it's so much fun. Love education for everyone. I'm a bird, you're a bird, what do you want? I want more teeth, the relationships are fun.
All right, so much like we saw in the last video, we're going to do this video basically exactly the same. So in the 500 Days of Summer video, I had, instead of like the good, the bad, the ugly, just had themes, just general themes that I noticed that I want to kind of talk about from the movie. So the Notebook relationship themes, there's 6 of them. The first one, love isn't enough, it takes connection. Number 2, and seemingly contrary, or kind of the opposite, is that chemistry isn't enough, it takes work. So it takes both connection and work to make relationships, succeed. Number 3, relationship conflict should not involve violence. So this section will talk about intimate partner violence and domestic violence, things like that, which I know isn't necessarily a massive theme of this movie, but it is in the movie in little ways, and I just want to talk about it because I don't feel like it really gets addressed in a lot of videos on there online, so I wanted to talk about it myself. Number 4, real love will always come back. I feel like this is kind of the main theme of the movie, to be honest with you. I think that Noah and Allie's love is a testament to the old adage, if you love something, set it free. And I feel like this is the perfect example. Number 5, don't talk about it, be about it. So Kendrick Lamar knows damn well about this, and this one, we'll get into it more, but it's more about, if you're gonna say stuff, that's fine, but people are impressed when you do things. So, don't talk about it, be about it. Be what you say you are. Don't just say you're this thing without backing it up. Number 6, true love is selfless. This one I feel throughout the movie is just so true. You just really see how Noah is so selflessly in love with Allie, and I love it. It's one of the best things about this movie is that you can see his love for this woman is so true and so pure. So those are the 6 relationship themes from The Notebook. So let's get into theme number 1. Love isn't enough, it takes connection. So with theme number 1, I wanted to go over a couple of different relationships that we see throughout the film. So we'll first talk a little bit about Allie and Lon, which before we even get into the whole movie. Lon as a character name, I'm sorry, man. I can't take the character seriously. Just be honest. Like, maybe if he was called Dawn, that would be a lot better. But Lon, I've just never heard that name before. Lon Hammond Jr. I mean, he's got a great last name, and the fact that he's a junior too, shout out. But Lon, I don't know. Anyway, so we'll go. Allie and Lon's relationship will be the main one we're talking about. But then we'll also talk about Allie's mother and father's relationship. So that being Anne Hamilton, Allie's mom, and John Hamilton, Allie's father. We'll also touch briefly on Noah and Martha Shaw's relationship. Martha Shaw being the World War widower that, I mean, if you want to say Noah is seeing, we could say that. But basically, it sounds like they're just kind of hooking up and seeing each other, but not, I don't know. I don't know exactly. She doesn't live with him, and he's got this big old house, so that's not great. But anyway, so that's going to be the main relationships we'll go over in this section. So it's a huge theme within the movie that love isn't enough. And this idea basically comes from the fact that you can love someone as a person, you can appreciate who they are, you can care about someone very deeply. You can make memories with them, but if you don't have that connection, if you don't have that magic, that compatibility, it won't last. It just won't. You just won't last. And so that's what we see with these three relationships. A little bit less with Noah and Martha, because they're just kind of this casual, in my opinion, at least what we see. It's kind of this casual thing, whatever. But we see it with Allie's mom and dad and Allie and Lon. And so just to briefly go over their relationship, Allie and Lon meet when she's a nurse taking care of veterans, and he asks her out. He gets better, finds her in the street in Charleston, visits her, and they get together, and they, for all intents and purposes, have a happy relationship. He asks her to marry him. She says yes. And then, they basically go out until she goes back to Seabrook, meets Noah, and then they get back together. But the reason why this theme is so major is because this is why Allie and Lon don't end up together. And you see it, they have happy moments. They go to the theater, they dance together, they ride horses together. But you see it in that scene, and Duke mentions it. Allie couldn't help but see Noah's face when Lon proposed to her. So it's like a classic scenario. I mean, the same thing happened with Ross and Rachel, where Ross was marrying Emily and says, I take the Rachel instead of take the Emily. When you love someone, you can't get them out of your mind, and this is a key incidence of that. Now, some may argue that Allie and Lon actually had the connection, they were in love, but she's just a tramp and, went with Noah because she was immature or whatever. And I would have to disagree. If you've been through life, and I'm not trying to claim I'm an expert here, you know when you love somebody and you know when you're in love with someone. And they are very different things. Both include similar feelings, but they're different stages. And so you see when Noah goes to Charleston and sees Lon and Allie kissing, he's just devastated. And you could say, oh, well, clearly she's happy. She's in love. And she even said to Noah, oh, yeah, I love Lon. But as we see later on in this video, don't talk about it, be about it. She clearly wasn't in love with Lon. She thought about another man when she said yes to getting engaged, even if she hadn't seen Noah. She hadn't even seen him. And for some reason, his face was the one that popped up in this moment. And you can see, if we pause right here, you can see on her face, yeah, she's happy, but it's all in the eyes. You know, what is that line from the movie? It's all in the eyes, Chico, right? It's all in the eyes. The eyes are really the windows to the soul. Because you can see it right in her face. Yeah, she's happy, but she has this kind of despondent, like, crap look, right? Then you get the moment where it's really solidified when she opens the paper and sees that Noah built the house and literally faints. She faints, and then still wearing her veil and tiara thing, is in the tub, sad, turning the water on and off. Or she ain't even mad. She's not even sad. She's mad. She's annoyed, and clearly conflicted. To me, I'm not trying to say, and Lon is actually, well, we're going to give Lon his flowers. I might have roasted his name. We will give him his flowers. Don't you worry. But we're talking mainly about the sequence of events here, right? We're talking about Allie. You see in her face that she still has feelings for Noah. And as Lon mentions, you know, he's like, oh, should I be worried? You're going back to Seabrook. Like, you know, this is weeks before the wedding. Should I be worried? And she's like, no, it's fine. And he assures her, oh, yeah, you know, people get cold feet. You know, things happen. You need to clear your head. I'm totally understanding. And that's fair. That's a fair point. He brings up a fair point. However, this was not her clearing her head. This was not her needing to sort through her feelings and commit. Because there are plenty of things that happen when you get engaged where you're in a pretty vulnerable place because you're taking that next step. It's like you're married without being married, right? It's like that next step of commitment. And it brings up insecurities. So it's understandable if someone feels this way. That's why they call it cold feet. But Allie took it way further. It took it way further than she should have. She gets coffee with Noah at his house. Well, firstly, she comes to his house and says, "You look good." It's so fun. I love this scene. And it was like, "Oh, are you okay?" Like, whatever. Sorry, she doesn't say he looks good. She says, "Are you okay?" And he just doesn't say anything. Because he's been in love with this woman for 5 years, right? And doesn't say anything and just looks at her, and she gets all flustered and leaves and crashes the car. And he's like, "Do you want to come in?" I just find that really funny. I find it funny when love disorients people, not in like a weird way. I just think it's a funny thing when that happens. Like, wow, this your feelings were so powerful that it made you disoriented. It's kind of endearing. And so we see this coffee conversation. I think it's important because Noah gets right to it. He just says, "Do you love him?" And she says, "Yep, I do. I really do." And he might sigh because he's like, He feels conflicted because her coming to his house, getting flustered, crashing the car, to me is not really signs of someone who is in love with someone else, someone who is 100% sure of their commitment in their engagement. And so he knows that, and he's like, I'm going through this shit again, right? This is not good, right? So what proceeds from there? So if Allie wanted to get out of this whole thing skirt-free, or scotch-free, as they say, she could have had this coffee conversation, said I love him, and then left. and I wouldn't have blamed her for anything. She could have left, and that was it. But she doesn't. She stays for dinner, drinks, has a moment with him, says, "Oh, remember all those moments?" And the classic line, "Oh, well, I won't take advantage of you." And she's like, "Well, I'm married." He says, "Not yet." And then she like flashes his ring like, "Well, fuck you." And he didn't appreciate that, obviously. But he's looking at her. And I love when women say, "Ooh, why are you looking at me like that?" Because we all know why we're looking at you like that. You know why I'm looking at you like that, but you have to play coy and you have to say something. And he goes, "Oh, memories." And then they have this talk on the porch where she says, "We really loved each other." And it's like, ooh, wow, that's that's a little borderline, right? Like, and I don't think it's necessarily, I don't think it's 100% over the line to talk in this way with an ex and acknowledge, hey, yeah, like we really had a special thing. I don't think anyone would disagree. I think that's stating a fact. But I think that with her being engaged and kind of the nature of this visit, and that she didn't really tell her partner about it, it's a little weird. And especially kind of these like flirty glances and the smiles and all that. She might have been able to leave that night and still be okay. But then they have this moment at the car where he says, "Hey, like, can you stay around tomorrow? I need to show you something." And she says yes, and then smiles and looks all giddy and then leaves. And then also misses the phone call with Lon, which is a huge thing. She misses the call with him. And that's a huge deal. Mind you, this is in an age without texting. They still have phones. So, just to preface for the video, this is 1940... I think maybe 1950? Around there. I mean, after World War II. So like a couple years after World War II. I think maybe 1946, whatever the date is, whatever it is. They have phones. So that was a huge deal that she missed his call. That's basically, what is it, the 1940s equivalent of, you're looking at your partner's location and you see them at some place and they're not answering your texts. Or put on the do not disturb, right? That's essentially what happened in this moment. So Allie fucks up, misses the phone call. But Lon is, again, we'll get to Lon's flowers. But he's understanding. He's a little bit concerned, as any fiance would be, like, hey, you were going to call, was expecting your call, called all around the city, you called 10 times, you weren't there, I was getting worried. It's understandable. To me, it doesn't necessarily come off as very insecure. But I think in this moment, before, when she was at the bank, there was plausible deniability of, oh yeah, I'm just going to Seabrook, taking care of some affairs. He calls her, and she is just so guilty. You see it in her face, and you can hear it on the phone call. He's like, "Oh, anything happened?" She's like, "Nope, nothing happened." For the record, things happen. Even if she didn't see him, if they were in a loving relationship, she'd be like, "Oh yeah, today I went to the park and I saw the ducks and I said hello to my mom and went by the old Miller farm and went and threw rocks in the pond," or whatever. Things happen during the day. When you call and your partner says, "Oh, nothing happened," something happened and they don't want to tell you, because things happen during the day. Even if they're mundane, even if they're boring, you say them, like, "Yeah, didn't really do much today. Went to the grocery store, came back, kind of hung out, went to the bank, whatever." You say that. You don't just say nothing. You can't say nothing. So anyway, I wanted to pause on this face. She makes the face where she's like looking off in the distance and like is like, "Ugh, I'm not telling the truth." And then she gets off the phone with him and she's looking down, and you look in her eyes and she knows, shit, Like, I am in deep, I fucked up, and I am so conflicted. I love this man, and I just lied to my fiance. So that's just something I wanted to point out. Another thing I wanted to point out that goes along with this theme. You know what? Actually, before we do that, I want to give Lon his flowers real quick. Lon is actually a real stand-up guy. When I first watched the movie, I didn't like Lon. I think that there's a big... I'm not in the Notebook community. I'm like, oh, there's this big anti-Lon conspiracy. That's not what I'm trying to say. I think generally, sometimes Hollywood makes you want to hate the rich person because they're pretentious and they're full of themselves and they've never struggled in their life. You never want to really root for the rich person in the movie. And at first when I watched this, I'm like, oh, Lon, he's the jealous ex-boyfriend, fiance, and he's rich and he's, whatever. But rewatching this back, I actually have a lot of admiration for Lon. So firstly, he follows through on his promise when he gets better to ask her out. He's pretty classy, and suave about it. He looks good. He asks parents for the permission to marry her, asks her to marry him. He can be a little cheesy. I'm not going to deny that. But he does everything kind of by the book. Doesn't necessarily do anything wrong, and you don't see much of their relationship, admittedly, but what I really am impressed by was when she comes to him and says, I need to go back to Seabrook. He knows damn well this is sus, and I know you had a love there. Maybe he didn't know about Noah. But I think that his wife being a little bit, I guess, kind of distant, if he was insecure, could have been like, no, you're not going. I don't want you going down there. Why would you go? And that could have sparked a fight, right? If he was insecure, it would have sparked a fight. But no, he's not. He's very secure in himself, actually, and supports her and says, hey, if this is what you need to do, I love you, I trust you, you should go. Now, granted, he does say at the end, oh, Seabrook, huh? He's still cautious. Understandably. Partner, fiancés, it'd be weird if he didn't have a little bit of healthy curiosity or skepticism. He then calls her. He might say something, oh yeah, I sound like a crazy person calling 10 people. Yeah, it's a little cringe, but I don't think he acts insanely insecure because he doesn't act jealous in this moment. He doesn't say, come home now. He's not angry. Doesn't say, where the hell have you been? But he is solemn because he does love her. And because he knows she's lying, she doesn't give him the honest truth. She lies to him on the phone. He knows that, and that hurts. So that's why he's being solemn and sad and looking down and saying, okay, I'll see you soon. He knows deep down this is the beginning of the end. But he's still holding on hope, right? The scene that I do want to point out more than anything is that at the very end of the movie, or near the end of the movie, when he finds out about Allie and Noah and their time together, he gives the classic interaction. Well, I have 3 options. I could shoot him, I could beat the crap out of him, or I can let you go. But none of these gives me you. And he realizes right then that he lost. And he is so secure in himself that he takes the L. He takes the L and is super graceful about it. I think it's really cool that he did this, because a lot of fiancés would have been so different. And you want to think about, I don't mean to take this into a dark turn, but if you think about how violent people become, you talk about murder, right? so many murders are crimes of passion. So many murders are, I caught my wife, husband, partner, married person, fiance, etc., with another person. Like, a lot of crimes happen because of that situation. And what I'm here to say, those reactions, those violent reactions, are completely wrong, unethical, bad, etc. So the fact, I'm not trying to say let's give Lon his flowers for meeting the bare minimum. I'm not trying to say that, but what I'm saying is he's the example of how to handle loss with grace. He handles it so gracefully. He tells her he loves her, says, if you love him, you should be with him. That's insane. That's insane emotional maturity for him to handle, to marry, to ask someone to marry him that he's loved, that he's been in love with, and she breaks off the engagement to go back to her ex that she spent one summer with. That's a lot of self-control. That's a lot of security. And granted, he's rich. He's beautiful. He's a beautiful man. He's attractive, whatever. It makes sense that he's somewhat secure, but still, he has a lot of emotional security, and you got to give him, you got to tip your cap. You got to tip your cap. So I just wanted to shout out him for that. Anyway, suffice to say, while we're still breaking down Allie and Lon, Allie isn't in love with Lon. They have the love. They love each other. Allie loves Lon. But like the theme says, love isn't enough. You have to have that connection. You have to have the chemistry. You have to have the compatibility. You can't just be patient. You can't just do things. You can't just treat people like gods and expect it to work. And I'm not saying that to say don't treat your partner right. You have to treat your partner right. But I'm saying it takes everything. It takes a multitude of factors. And love just isn't enough. As much as Lon wants to think that he just loves her enough that she'll stay with him, it's just not true. Yeah, and so you have to have that connection. That's what that relationship illustrated. And you see it when Allie comes back. It's been 5 years since they saw each other, and they still are making eyes. They're still making out, etc. And I don't mean to be grotesque, gross guy here, but another thing you see when they get back and spend a night together is they have sex, and they have sex multiple times. And Allie says the line, "This is what I've been missing. Damn, I've been missing this the whole time." Just an absolute savage line, but that's another part of the connection. That's another part of the chemistry, is that physical chemistry, the physical connection. And clearly they didn't have it if, she's saying the next day, "Oh, damn, I've been missing this. Clearly my husband sucks in bed," or whatever, right? And then they share this kiss on the dock as it's raining. I mean, talk about like the most romantic scene ever. If I may pause the video real quick. What the hell is this? They're in this mid-fight, mind you, which they always do. And he goes, "Oh, it's still not over," and goes to kiss her. And she opens up her mouth super wide, like mama birding it. In what instance would your mouth be open this wide? I am so confused. Like, what type of school of kissing did you attend? Like, this is crazy. What instance would you ever open your mouth? Like, is she singing a note? Was this meant to be a musical or something? Just so strange. I mean, I've heard of French kissing, but this is ridiculous. I just thought that's like a very, like, they didn't see this scene post-edit and like think, yeah, we probably need to redo this kiss. That to me is weird. I sorry if I'm just being an asshole at this point, but I don't know. It's a very strange kiss, and the kiss itself is fine after that, like when they're kissing, like on the porch, and then obviously they go inside and do the deed. But I'm surprised they didn't re-edit this. Anyway, but hey, let me know in the comments if you've had a kiss like this. Who knows? I think another big scene that's important to mention with the whole connection thing is the moment where Allie says, I don't paint anymore. I don't do all these other things I used to anymore. And Lon says, well, paint, but that's not, if Lon really knew her, if they really were compatible, he would have made sure her passions were supported. And Noah does that. Noah does that, and you see it. So I think that's all encompassing the whole compatibility, everything. We'll get into this later, but I think that there is mirroring or similarities between Allie and Lon's relationship and Allie's mom and Allie's dad in their marriage. You see it in the film. We'll get to it. I don't want to spoil anything, but they are another prime example of love not being enough. So we'll get into it. We'll get into it later. But you can see she admits, I love your father, but this guy I had a thing with ages ago, I still think about. You hear that all the time of, I still have feelings for this person I had a magical time with. That magic is addicting. You get addicted. That's why people can't move on. It's because of the magic. That's why they write love songs and make these movies, is because of the magic. Anyway, final notes I want to say about this theme. We see it pretty directly with Noah and Martha, that she might love him. She might love him. I mean, she clearly has very big feelings for him. Is it love? I don't know. We don't see it super hard. But you can tell he doesn't love her. And it just doesn't work. Love isn't enough. He's not connected to her. And she recognizes that. And he says that to her as well. He says, hey, I can't give you what you need. And he's straight up, and shout out to him for being honest, even though he's a savage. He still says, hey, I can't give you what you need. I'm sorry, but that's just not where I'm at. And Martha realizes and says, similarly to Lon, she's the one, right? She's the one, isn't she? She knows that. And he says, yeah. I will say, shout out to Martha for getting in one last kiss with him. Goodbye, right in front of Allie when she had spent the evening having dinner with her. That's crazy. That's a crazy move. But you know what? The game is the game. So, gotta shout out Martha for doing that. I thought that was hilarious. You see Allie just watching this fucking bitch kissing my man, who's not even her man. But, I thought that was hilarious. So anyway, all in all, love isn't enough. It's just not. You can, and I think this, to be honest with you, is the biggest issue we see with the nice guy syndrome. Is that nice guys and other people of this irk, other people ilk, other people of this mindset, for lack of a better term, they think that I can just action my way into love. I can give someone $1 million. I can rub their feet. I can do all of these actions. I can do all of these things, and they will love me. They will give me the love back. It doesn't matter about compatibility. It doesn't matter anything. It's just, can I do things for them? They will love me because I do things for them, and that's just not true. That is the theme of this movie, is that the chemistry cannot be, I'm talking about metaphorical chemistry, cannot be created nor destroyed. It's like energy, right? Newton's second law, whatever it is. You can't destroy that. For real, you can't. Because you see 5 years later, they haven't seen each other, they haven't spoken a word to each other. And they're still like they never left. Everyone's felt that sort of feeling of, we're back like we never left. It's powerful. It's certainly powerful. And I think that's what makes love last, is the connection. It's the chemistry. And love. Again, it's all these combination of things. Well, that's the main whole purpose of this video. But the theme number one, love's not enough. You have to have chemistry.